Well, here we go. Hello, what's up everybody? My name is Mike Brown, aka ReviewKingMB, and I am doing my 31 days or 31 nights, whatever I feel like calling it, of horror movie reviews, and I'm still doing the Friday the 13th series. I'm almost closer to being done. But this time I am on part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan. This movie came out, of course, 1 year later, 1989. It is directed by Rob Hedden. And the plot. The plot is we see this new group of kids who are going on this class trip to New York. They're going on this boat. But of course, Jason somehow was resurrected just in the nick of time to hop a ride onto this boat. So you would think with this title, the movie would be Jason showing up in New York at the very least halfway through, but preferably the first 30 minutes. And he's wreaking havoc and causing chaos and killing people left and right in New York. That would be amazing, right? Well, no, that's not what we got. We had over an hour of a movie where Jason is killing these said people on a cruise ship, only on his way to New York. It's not till the last 10 minutes where Jason finally ends up in the Big Apple and does some damage. Very little, but some. Now, what I think of Jason Takes Manhattan, if it's not painfully obvious, this movie sucks. It does. And I remember being a kid, and I don't know if it was the fact that I just liked almost everything that I watched, or just the fact that I loved horror and Jason Voorhees, like I would watch all of them or as much as I can, and that this movie was like always on TV. So I would watch this and I would enjoy it. I would be into it. But there was some age. There was an age that I hit where I hit this age, whatever it was, and then I rewatched this movie and I thought, holy shit, what did I like about this movie? This movie's terrible. It's just like everything started to stick out like a sore thumb, just right in front of your face, screaming, I suck, I'm terrible, why like me? And I had to re-question this whole franchise. Like, I had to rewatch all of them, and luckily some of them I still enjoyed, but this one is not on that list. I have to start with first things first. This main actress, Rennie is her name, played by Jensen Daggett. I don't think she's a good actress. I don't. I mean, I can't really say what else she's done before or since this, so who knows? Maybe she's better, or maybe she just stopped acting altogether. But I watch this movie and I watch her performance and I think, okay, she was only casted in this movie because she's attractive. She's attractive, but not in the slutty way. She's just an average pretty girl. Somebody that you'll just root for and care for because she's pretty and she's a nice person. That's not good enough. The backstory that they tried to give this character, holy fuck! She's getting visions of Jason as a boy. Even though the way Jason looks as a boy with hair, like he doesn't even look like the Jason that we saw drown in part 1 and got flashbacks of him being bald and a mongoloid and looking really gross. And they try, like some scenes he doesn't even look grotesque in the flashbacks here, and then other scenes he does, but he has his hair and it looks really awkward. Could you not have paid enough money for a bald kid or somebody willing to wear a bald cap? I guess not. And she gets these visions, especially the one scene where young Jason comes out of the mirror and grabs her, and it's like, this is so stupid. We eventually find out that the reason why she's having these visions is because when she was a kid, her uncle, who you see in this movie, played by Peter Mark Richmond, but you see that as a child, he brought her out to Crystal Lake and was trying to teach her how to swim, pushed her into the water, and basically said, good luck, see ya, have fun. And she was drowning, and then you see that Jason, as a child, still living in the water? Whoa, what? grabs her leg, and so they had an interaction, and so she remembers that, like, subconsciously, and maybe even Jason remembers her. I don't fucking know. I'm trying to make sense of this as I'm talking to you, like this is therapy. I'm trying to rationalize everything that I just watched. Is this movie telling me that Jason is some supernatural being that lived in the water this whole time, or was it maybe she was crazy as a kid and just saw this? Because I'm pretty sure if Jason grew up to become who he was in part 2 and part 3, and then died and came back as a zombie, he didn't die drowning. This movie, these writers, this director does not know their own history, their own lore. Just none of these events are making sense. I get trying to have a main character that has a connection to Jason. They also tried that in part 3 and failed miserably, but this fails even harder. The other characters, Sean, played by this guy Scott Reeves, he obviously likes Rennie, and so he spends the whole movie trying to defend her or take care of her, and the uncle's constantly like, get the hell out of here, but he won't quit. So I will give him an A for effort. He will not stop before he finally hooks up with this girl. You gotta know that that's his goal at the end of the day. Some of the other characters, a lot of them are a little bit generic, just playing your typical teen cliches, but I want to mention Kelly Hu, who I always forget is in this movie, but then you see her and you're like, that's Kelly Hu, and she plays a character who's in the shadow of this other character, Tamara Mason, who's sort of I don't want to say a bitch, but she's just not likable at all. She's a slut, throwing herself at whoever she needs to. And then Kelly Hu's like trying to be like her, and so you almost feel bad for her. And then her death scene in that dance hall and just being chased by Jason in general, I feel so bad for her. I should mention this character, Julius, played by Vincent Craig Dupree, an actor that I can't recall seeing in anything else, but I very much like him here. Look, he starts off as the typical bully, a little one-dimensional, sure, but he comes around. He becomes a likable guy. When shit hits the fan, when they see that Jason exists, when people start dying around him, he steps up, he becomes a team player. But his death scene, too, it's like, well, you just gave me an arc of this guy where he became more likable. And then he dies in the dumbest, just mindfuck of a way that you've ever seen before. Not only did he decide to box Jason, but he does it when they're in New York on the roof of this building. And not only does, like, you can probably find the clip online on YouTube where he's punching Jason like crazy in the face and the stomach and just nothing. Jason's just sitting there eating it, probably laughing if you could see his face. And Julius just finally gets tired, runs down and says, all right, take your best shot, motherfucker. And Jason, one punch, knocks his fucking head off. I know I might sound like I'm getting too old for this shit, right? If I can enjoy something as dumb and over the top and crazy as that, okay. If there are people who watch this movie and say, what are you talking about? That was awesome, or this is awesome. Cool. Good for you. I just roll my eyes a little bit and say, come on, really? Really? Kane Hodder, who plays Jason. I love Kane Hodder as Jason. Like, he's not the problem here. He's not. He's great. This movie, though, does play so much into the teleporting deal, right? There's even one scene where one of the characters is being chased by Jason, and he literally is behind them. They run, and he's in front of them. What the fuck? Another scene where they're climbing up to the top of this pillar, and Jason's down below, and then somehow he ends up at the top with them. What the fuck? Like, the other movies, sure, he somehow got to certain spots in the woods quicker than he should have. Yeah, there's some issues there, but you just go with it. But this movie is just like, no, he can fucking teleport. We don't care. It's bad. And the fact that we have to sit here and spend the whole movie on this boat. If this movie was called Jason Takes a Cruise Ship, you'd say, okay, at least you're not falsely advertising to me. You're not lying. Jason taking Manhattan is bullshit. The original idea, yes, he was supposed to be in New York for a lot longer. They did storyboard and map out all of these scenes where for more than half of the movie he would be in New York. He would end up in Madison Square Garden. He'd be doing all these cool things, which honestly sound great. If you watch the making of this movie, you're like, fuck, I wanted to see that. Why? Why? You know, maybe we shouldn't have rushed these movies so fucking quick, one year after another. Maybe they would have been able to fully plan this out or get the money they needed to make it happen. I don't know what went wrong. I don't know which producer or if it was the studio that's responsible that made them cut back so much on what they could have done here. The last 10 minutes of him in New York, there are some cool scenes in there. Seeing Jason just in a different scenery is cool. I mean, I know there's just him in some back alleys and some streets and stores where you don't feel like this is New York enough. You just get the one scene in Times Square, and it is cool to see him in that new environment. The one scene where he just walks by and kicks the people's stereo and turns around, shows his face, a little cheesy, but I'll even take moments like that because he's in New York. But the end of this movie, the fucking end of this movie, where he ends up in the sewer chasing these two characters, and somehow, some way, the water system that comes in to flush out the sewer, this is what stops Jason. You have the scene where he gets hit with this water or acid, whatever it is, and not only is it melting his face, but the hockey mask comes off and his face is literally melting. It looks bad. It does. It looks bad. It just he looks nothing like how he looked in the last movie, which is the best way he's ever looked. So the fact that you don't even keep it, I know you change special effects artists every time and they don't want to copy from each other, but what about some consistency here? He looks the worst that he's ever looked in any of the movies here, and then he somehow magically turns into a little boy. What the fuck? I'm not trying to be a grouch. I'm not trying to be a Grinch. I'm not trying to just shit all over this just to do it. But what the fuck? That's so lazy. There's no explanation for any of this. Is that just in her head? Or is Jason really a boy now? What the fuck? Was this magic water that went through the sewers? And if they had been touched by it, would they have turned to kids too? Is Jason alive again as a flesh and blood boy? None of this makes sense. None of these questions are answered. And obviously the next movie pretty much just pretends like this never happened. God damn it, because I wanted to just be more into this movie. So many years later, you want to say, hey, maybe there are better things in it. But man, this was a chore to watch and go, fuck. So much potential, so much stuff that they could have gotten right and done well and done different. But they failed. They failed miserably. So guys, let me know in the comments below if you too have seen Jason Takes Manhattan Part 8. What do you think of it? Do you like it more than I do, or do you agree that this movie just absolutely sucks? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later!